So we have our prefab successfully spawning, but this was one prefab. I thought that, I said in your last video, I may have hundreds of bamboo running amok. Does that mean I have to make hundreds of game manager objects and hundreds of different scripts? No, we want to keep things nice and scalable and as concise as possible. So we could have done it last video, but I think you were absorbing a lot of information. So let's just go back and do it now. In your game manager, specifically your game manager scripts, I'm going to show you a cool trick on how to do things based on a timer. For example, I don't just want to spawn one bamboo. I want to spawn bamboo on the basis of, X amount of seconds that have passed. So let's beefing up this script. And anytime you're trying to do things with time in Unity or on an interval, you probably almost always need these two variables. You need a timer, a float to keep track of how much time has passed. And you don't necessarily need this variable, but it's a good idea. You'll need to state some type of interval. So for example, I'm interested in spawning in bamboo. So I should declare how long this amount of time should be. So how long do I want in between each bamboo spawning? I don't know. Let's just say 3F for now. That means 3 seconds. So every 3 seconds, I'm going to spawn a bamboo. Now, this is where we go into the update method, because as we've previously learned, the update is always happening. So if I'm interested in time, I have to always check what the time is, and I have to be ready to spawn based on if enough time has passed. So this is our focus for this particular lesson. Now, programmers in the class will love this next step. Non-programmers may not have seen this before, and it really is the basis of all programming. It's called an if statement, because I have to check if enough time has passed since the last bamboo has spawned. Now, before I get writing out that if statement, this timer variable was supposed to keep track of time. It's not set to be equal to anything because time is always changing. I always have to update how much time has passed. And thankfully, I can do that by going plus equals. That means to increase. All right. It's one thing to be equal to something. It's another thing to increase. And maybe this will help illustrate if I set timer to be 0 at the start. So you can think of timer as a little stopwatch in your hand, and typically stopwatches start at 0 seconds. However, once my game starts, and once my game starts updating, my timer is going to increase. And how much is it going to increase by? Well, it's going to increase by how much time has passed. How do I find out how much time has passed? Well, believe it or not, you've already used this lovely command. We've used time delta time as kind of a correction factor, but now we know that time delta time is actually keeping track of how much time has passed in the game. So after 1 second has passed, it's going to be added to the timer. When 1.8362 seconds have passed, that's what timer is going to be equal to. So we've basically created this digital stopwatch that we can use to write code and kind of give our game some functionality. So maybe I'll just say this up here. I'll make a comment. It's literally keeping track of how much real time has passed. This is not fake time. These are real seconds. But maybe highlighting real time makes it sound like there's something more to this line of code than there is. All right, so programmers will be happy. The rest of you may not like this next part, but I think it's pretty easy, logically sound to follow. So I need to check if the stopwatch in my hand, if the timer in my hand, I need to check if enough seconds have passed to spawn another bamboo. So imagine my timer is at 1 second. Am I going to spawn? No, because I need to wait 3 seconds. If my timer is at 2 seconds, am I going to spawn? No, because the timer or the spawn interval is 3 seconds. However, if the timer in my hand is ever greater than the time required to spawn, then I'm ready to spawn a new thing, right? If the timer says 3.0001 seconds, I'm ready to spawn, right? We've increased that threshold to spawn a new prefab. Now I just noticed that I may have skipped. I don't know if you non-programmers have created these pairs of braces before, but after the if statement, you can just go on another line and go do one of those numbers. It's shift square bracket. So what do we want to do once enough time has passed? Well, we want to instantiate. We want to spawn another prefab. And because I'm lazy, I can just keep the code. So if enough time has passed, I'm going to spawn another prefab. And I would say arguably the thing people are most likely to forget is if my timer says 3.1 seconds and I've spawned another bamboo, I need to reset my timer. I need to hit that reset button. Otherwise, it's always going to be above 3 seconds. And if it's always above 3 seconds, I'm going to always be spawning. I'm going to always be instantiating. And that's going to crash my game pretty quick. So we need to make sure we reset the timer so that we can count up to 3 seconds again. And this is some very logically sound code that we've created. And hopefully it works. So if you press Control S to save, and we take a little peek back in Unity, and we run our game, we're not just going to spawn off of the starts, we're going to spawn after 3 seconds. And you can see in my hierarchy all of the game objects that are being created. And we've got a conveyor belt here. And obviously you can probably see what the next step is for our game here. So that's okay that we're going to have a little bundle up here. But all that this video was for is so that you can see the logic behind time-based or interval tracking coding in Unity.